okay, so you've got background, you've got kind of personal experiences that individuals have had, you've got their genetic makeup as a human being. So you got these things that certainly have some level of impact on their resiliency. I would say that there's a factor that is probably 12 to 17 times more important. What do you got next?
It's a question about resiliency. Hey, it appears that some people on my team are just more resilient than others. And the question kind of stemmed around, is this just a natural thing, this idea of resiliency? And how can I cultivate it if they just don't seem to have it? Because some people just show me that in tough times they can get through it, and other people in tough times show me that they can't. So that was kind of the question, and it was how do I create resiliency in subordinates? I was in a very similar situation. I had a team of Marines that had been through a rough 7 months. And had we been asked to extend on the last day, I had guys on my team that absolutely would have said, no factor, I'm all in. They wouldn't have batted an eyelash. They'd been right back in it. And I genuinely had guys on my team that I do not think could have done that. They could not have done that. And I thought about, and the answer you gave was connected back to something we talk about all the time, was the idea of ownership. My Marines had the same training. They had the same gear. They all were actually about the same age. They all were pretty similar in where they came from, what they were like. These were Marines. And yet I had Marines on my team that could have done 7 more months, and I had guys on my team that couldn't have done 7 more days. And the difference between them in a lot of those cases was how close they were to what they were doing. And if I kept them in the dark and kept them away from what was going on and didn't help them understand it and let them lead and let them take ownership of it, they were less likely to have that. So can you build resiliency in your team? Yes. And one of the best ways you can build resiliency in your team is by giving the individual on your team more control, more influence, more, and I won't ever forget to say the word, more ownership.
Yeah. So that's good stuff. Good stuff. Solid stuff over there. What's interesting about this is, what do you think? Okay, so you got background, you got kind of personal experiences that individuals have had, you've got their genetic makeup as a human being. So you got these things that certainly have some level of impact on their resiliency. I would say that there's a factor that is probably 12 to 17 times more important than any of those. Leadership. I'm reading a book right now that's going to be on the podcast soon. The guy's a battalion commander in Vietnam, and they are running a kind of a scorecard for all these different battalions, for the 3 battalions in this brigade. And they're monitoring number of missions done, number of enemy killed, number of casualties, and then it gets into number of AWOL, number of court-martial, retention rate. So, what does it mean? What's AWOL? Well, like, why do you go AWOL? Well, it's because you're not resilient to this. Why would you be in Vietnam and re-enlist in the freaking army if you're not resilient? You have to have a level of resiliency to do that. And so this guy, who is a real leader, has the highest score in every category, including re-enlistment rate, including lowest AWOL. Why is that? Is it because he had different humans? No, it's not because he had different humans. Why were they able to conduct more operations, which are stressful? Why were they so resilient that they were able to conduct more operations than everybody else? Is it because he got kids that were all, wrestlers and worked on whatever? No. It's because of leadership. And part of that is what you're saying. Absolutely. Part of that, actually, a vast part of that is, as a leader, he's the leader that's giving ownership. He's the leader that's saying, hey, here's the mission. How do you guys want to execute it? That comes from leadership. Again, here's a couple other small things that you as a leader have some control over. The next one I would say, and I think that the psychological literature would support this statement, be on offense. How can we take my team, which is on the defensive because there's bad weather and we don't want to go out? How do we reverse that? How do I say, you know what? We got bad weather coming. We know it's coming. We're going to go on the attack. We're going to actually take a day off from work, or we're going to stand down these troops. You guys go get some extra rest. That way, when this weather hits, we're ready to rock and roll. We're going on the offense. Just think about that right there. What does that do to the resiliency of the troops? All of a sudden, we're going on the attack. What it feels like to be on the defense is a horrible thing. When you're sitting there waiting for mortars to hit your position, you've heard them come out of the tube and you're waiting for them to hit. I believe it's the worst feeling that I've ever felt. I've read soldiers in World War I and World War II describe that as the worst feeling that they've ever felt. We are in a foxhole. We are suffering from heavy artillery and we have no control. We are on complete defense. That is the worst feeling in the world. So what can we do as a leader to go on the offense? Because that very move will help the resiliency of your troops. It will, 100%. And then lastly, and this is a little bit of a hand-in-hand type thing, but what can we do to have some fun? What can I do to have some fun? What about when the weather hits and it's sleeting and snowing and I'm the commander, and you know what I do? I go out and I service that client in a pair of shorts and a t-shirt. And I video it and send it to everybody. Hey, little chilly out there today, gents. Might want to bundle up, right? What can I do to bring fun to my organization? Because fun builds resiliency. Smiles build resiliency. And this isn't just, I'm telling you this. They have psychological experiments where you're tasked to do something and the instructions are smile and do this task. And people that do the task with a smile are more resilient. People that do it with a frown, sometimes they do it more accurately. It focuses the mind in that way, but who's going to be able to do it for longer? Who's going to be able to suffer? Look, going through basic SEAL training, which sucks. I promise you, when you go hit the surf and it's 55 degrees and you smile, I guarantee it's easier. It's actually the water is warmer when you smile. The water is warmer when you're running to the surf and you look at your buddy and you make fun of the instructor that you just sent to the surf and you crack a good joke about it. The water is warming up. And that's what we as leaders need to do. So here's the deal. Guess what? You should tell the truth. You should tell the truth. And you know what? The truth is,